What's up, rogues? Check out the damage that we're able to output with this new best rogue build in the entire game. You can see right there, there's a 1.9 billion, there's a 1.7 billion, and remember that ticks 2 times per second, so basically you multiply that times 2, and that's your DPS with this build, guys. It is going to go absolutely crazy. This, in my personal opinion right now, is the best actual rogue build in the game, where previously I would say, yeah, Barrage is definitely the build to go for, but now I think that this is going to be the king. And the reason why is you get way more DPS in terms of its responsiveness. And so for starters, I want to go over what makes this one stronger than the Barrage build that we recently uploaded and what everyone thinks is the best rogue build. So just for starters, let's go over the main thing. Penetrating Shot has a much higher lucky hit chance. Now, there may be some sort of bugs or things that are working as not intended. There is a really good video by Dioxide, I'll link it down below, and it talks about like lucky hit chance and going past 100. The game sometimes just lets things work past 100, but in a way that it might not supposed to be working. Diablo 4 is kind of like a game where we got to figure out what's the new best bugged build to kind of get the best build. And so Pen Shot has a huge lucky hit chance, and you might be wondering, well, what's the point of going over 100% lucky hit chance? To answer it, it just does more damage. It seems like there are things to activate, and the video that I'm going to be referring to goes back into Season 2 when we had the Tibalt's bug with Wind Force, where it used to deal like more damage on like anything, and you would go past 100% lucky hit on Pen Shot for that activation. Now, how does it work with Andariel's? I don't have the math and the inner workings. I just know that it feels way better. There are lots of times where I'll shoot like a Pen Shot and it'll just pop everything, because it's proccing Andariel's a lot of times. And with one of the aspects that you can put on, which is called the Trick Shot aspect, it's going to split those. So not only do you get like the double activation of both of the penetrating shots to go ahead and land, you also have a very high lucky hit chance for specifically Creeping Death, which is another aspect that will give you a bunch of extra bonus damage. Now, I will say though, just as a heads up, against bosses, for single target, Barrage may actually do a little bit more. Once you see the boss over here, you know, I'm just going to fast forward the boss because the boss battle is like actually a joke for this build. So if you see us walking into the boss, of course, this is going to be a tier 7, which is the most efficient area to farm. I've done T8, it's fine. But we do a swap to Umbra Crux and watch the damage on the bosses. This is like incredible damage. And we haven't even fully mid-maxed all of the gear yet. But look, the bosses are done within just a few seconds, which is very impressive for any build. It's on the same level, I feel like, as like Sorc, where you're just seeing like these boss HPs just get absolutely deleted, and you do more damage while crowd controlled, but it's really that you're getting these crazy amounts of damage ramp ups with specifically the Andariels, just like you would normally with Barrage. But it just feels like this build does way more damage, and the responsiveness, if you've ever played Barrage, you know that like if there's a bunch of enemies, it kind of takes a second for everything to kind of die. But you don't have that with the Penetrating Shot build. And the reason why is Pen Shot doesn't have a limit. Barrage can only hit the target once, then it can ricochet, and then you have like the other aspects depending on what you're running to go ahead and split or do AoE damage with, let's say, the Umbra Crux. But Pen Shot feels way more responsive. Again, there's so many times just like in that area right there where we just shoot like once, and remember, every single arrow that you shoot, you're going to get like more projectiles, because you have like the temporal roll where you're going to get those penetrating shot projectiles cast twice. Ideally, towards the very end, you will be able to get 2 arrows every single time that you shoot. Not like 200%, you just need 100%, and then past that it doesn't do anything. But that's what's giving us all of the crazy damage with the Creeping Death being able to be activated, and on top of that, you also have the ability for those arrows to then split multiple times, and that's, again, what makes this build feel so much better. Again, generally try it versus the Barrage one. It does require a lot of different things here, so let's go over the build, but I want to go ahead and get the intro out of the way because I felt like it was pretty important. In addition to that, this is another frequently asked question, is how do we get our attack speed past 100%, because the game isn't really supposed to let you, but if you get close quarters and accelerating, those two alone will get you really high up there. Now you can go even past this, you could probably push 200, it will require a greater affix on specifically the passive for the Alchemic Advantage, which is in the skill tree over here. But this is going to be really good. I don't happen to have one, but if you do happen to have one, this is what you want, because it's going to increase your attack speed, which is in, I believe, the second bucket. And then it's also going to increase your lucky hit chance, which is essentially how the build deals damage. So at the end of the day, Pen Shot does not deal the damage, and Darius does all of our damage. But let's go over the skills, and I'll go over some of the things that you can swap in and out. So the first skill is kind of optional, actually. So you can play Smoke Grenade, you can play Concealment, whatever you want to run, totally fine. And then we're running Pen Shot. This is the main source of our activator of DPS, because it has way more lucky hit than Barrage. Then we've got Poison Trap, and then we've got Poison Imbuement. We don't need Poison Imbuement to deal the damage. We just need to activate Poison Imbuement and shoot with it, and that's going to activate another multiplier. Then we run Shadow Step as well as Dash, just to activate our close quarters, and then we're running Inner Sight. Inner Sight actually does a bonus, because once we're at full maximum resource, we're able to knock down the targets, and this build already has pretty good survivability because I'm maining Doombringer in it, but you can swap out Doombringer if you want to go even crazier for DPS. But this is definitely going to be a good thing to run as well, because again, it's going to knock down the targets. That's why on the boss, if we just go back, fast forward to the boss gameplay, the boss, watch how fast it gets staggered on this. It's genuinely incredibly impressive. So the boss comes out, and let's say one. Okay, we gotta swap to Umbra Crux. I usually like to swap to Umbra Crux, but look at the boss is staggered in 2 seconds. It's again ridiculous. But that also helps us out with the build. We'll go into that in the skill tree. But yeah, Inner Sight is what we're gonna be running for specialization. Now, as far as the gear, this is an Andariel's build. You gotta have Andariel's. This build does not function without Andariel's. If you need a leveling build, I'll try to link one down below. You can level up with Heartseeker. You can level up with pretty much whatever you want. Flurry with the teleport is great. I've been playing with that. Tyrael's is going to be great for survivability. Then we have Fist of Fate. This is really important to try to get that lucky hit chance to be greater affix. I unfortunately still don't have it in the gameplay, but if you happen to get that lucky hit chance greater affix, I mean, this build can go even further. I haven't even fully min-maxed this, but if I was to min-max a build, it would 100% be this one, because I love the playstyle of it. And then we obviously run Umbra's aspect over here, pretty much standard on all rogues. And then ideally you want to get chance to freeze, slow. You can mix and match any of those, but I like Noxious Ice because it does even more damage to those frozen enemies, which is when the boss is staggered, it's considered frozen, so you're gonna get more multipliers. You can run Concussive Strikes if you want to as well. Anything really here. If you also want, you could even throw the Pence and Greaves for even more damage, and technically that gives you crit, which can help out a little bit. It gives you more Umbrus, but don't worry too much about crit. Even though in my build I have 100% crit, it's just because of the rolls that I happen to have on certain things. You don't need it though. Also, Inner Sight will give you a bonus to your critical strike chance. Not that you need it, because again, your damage over time cannot crit. And then we're running Accelerating Aspect. This is how we go beyond the amount of attack speed. That's why crit can kind of matter, but it doesn't really matter, because you're going to crit once every 5 seconds anyways. It's not a big deal. But damage over time, dex, max life, kind of the generic stuff. And then you want to temper on anywhere you can damage per Dark Shroud or damage to crowd control. So if you already have a build that you built for whatever reason, you built something else, if you still have damage to crowd control, it's fine in this build. It doesn't really matter. Choose whichever one that you happen to have. I prefer damage to Dark Shroud while you have per Dark Shroud, because it's just overall up more of the time, but most of the bosses melt so fast. Again, in T7, you can even melt bosses pretty fast in T8, but I still recommend, just like I mentioned before, T7 is what you want to do for the Infernal Hordes, because you're going to be able to one-shot things, and you get more Aether by completing 7. It's just no one's trying to do the highest tier of Pit. If you want to get material, you do 101. That's kind of the magic number. Just like Infernal Hordes, 7 is the magic number. Creeping Death, that's what we're going to put in our amulet. You can put it in the 2-enter if you want, but there's another really great stat on this. It's unstoppable and staggered. Bosses take X, a big amount. It's actually X 40, but it will actually be X60 if you put it in the amulet. So it's going to be great, more damage over time. Ring of Starless Skies, and then Trick Shot Aspect. This is what causes our arrows to split, and the other arrows that are shooting out get asked us all the time. It's not some people are asking, dude, how do you get multi-shot in Diablo 4? Multi-shot sadly doesn't exist, but the build plays kind of like it because it splits the arrows. It's Tyrael's Might that's giving us those additional arrows. And then we are running Inner Calm over here. It just kind of helps out during bosses, but you can run whatever offensive aspect that you want to run. And then I really have been enjoying Doombringer here. Really great for crazy survivability. And since we scale a bunch of hit chance, it does okay damage too. It can kill most of the trash stuff, but primarily poison is what we're doing for damage. For the gems, we want to run amethyst, and then we want to run emeralds for even more damage, but if you want, you can run rubies, and then skulls everywhere, because Tyrael is going to give you max res. Skulls will help out with extra armor. If you need more armor, you may want to get one in your boots or your pants. Another important thing, this build will absolutely chew through resources. That's one reason why I play Inner Sight, but you do want to try to get energy per second if you need it. And I say if you need it because you can also get resource cost reduction here, and also on your skill tree, if you want to go ahead and invest into like your lucky hit chance to restore, that's fine too. Again, Pen Shot has a pretty big lucky hit chance, but on the bosses, there's not enough enemies for it to help out, so getting energy per second in just one area here, if you can get a greater affix, that's cool. You may not need to get this, but I'm just kind of mentally noting it here. You'll have to play around and see what your attack speed is, because once you get to crazy amounts of attack speed, like 200%, you may actually want to swap accelerating with, let's say, creeping death. You can swap these because your attack speed is so fast that you're chewing through your resources, and you can get more damage and more value by swapping them. The reason why is you'll get more damage, like in terms of numbers, but you're getting slower attack speed, so you don't, again, chew through your resources. It's going to be there's like a kind of a give and take. So even though you're attacking slower, you're hitting harder, but if you're running to the situation where you don't have any resources to attack, that's bad, then you're actually losing DPS. So again, you can swap with, let's say, Intercom or Creeping Death, whatever you want to swap with. And then now let's hop into the skill tree. I'll make this a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and move down over here. So the first 2 points don't matter. We don't use basic. Then we're getting sturdy, getting 1 decisive strikes. Then this is where you get pen shot, and you want to run advanced pen shot. This is why it gets crazy in terms of survivability, because elite enemies also just get knocked down instantly. That's how we are staggering like crazy. And then I really liked running Shadow Step with Discipline. It gives you extra cooldown reduction on it, and you just basically have it up more of the time. And this will also proc your Close Quarters, which is great for more damage. And then we're running Weapon Mastery, then we're running Dash. You could put more points into Unstable Elixirs, but you do not need Trick Attacks for this because you do not benefit off of getting the crit in this build. But this could be okay if you want to put more points in that. You can also put points into Agile. If you want to drop Smoke Grenade, that is optional, but it gives you another set of damage, and it also dazes the enemies. And then with Dark Shroud, we're going to max that out. With Poison Trap, we get the increased damage. And then we only need 1 point into Poison Imbuement, because remember, it does not deal damage with the Poison Imbued Pen Shot, it's damage with the Andariel. So more poison damage. Damage reduction here, and then we've got Alchemic Advantage. So the build is actually super tanky, as you guys see in the gameplay. Like, we're not really dropping HP for the most part. The only thing that will actually do damage to us is if we sit in sort of like a Lilith Blood Wave or something that's coming out in the pit, or let's say Butcher comes out. Those are the things that will actually damage the build. And then we're running Innovation, and then I still like Second Wind. You could drop this if you want to, though, because we are running Inner Sight, so the uptime is a little bit iffy on it, but I still think that it's just overall a really good thing to have. You don't really need to put points into this. It's just kind of extra points, but I had some extra points and I was at like 190 or something. If you happen to get the tempering of like extra movement speed per Dark Shroud and you temper on it, dude, you go so fast. You're going to be maxed out with this build in terms of movement speed. It's really great. And then we also have Close Quarters Combat. This is going to be our bonus, and you don't really need to get damage to crowd control. We're really only using it for the extra attack speed, and there really isn't anything to take because you don't get benefit off of crit. Victimize is still not so great, and then we also have exposure for traps, but we don't really use that. So Close Quarters Combat is going to be what I would recommend, because it gives you potentially 30% attack speed. One is in category 1 and one is in category 2. It's kind of busted, but that's how it works. Basically, you get 30% attack speed, and then you also get a multiplier. My multiplier is only like 30x for this, so don't feel like you have to get this up. Again, I would recommend damage per Dark Shroud over getting damage to crowd control, just so there's more of an uptime. And then as far as the other things that we need to go over, the Paragon board. So as far as the Paragon board, we're going to be starting with Fluidity, because we're going to be using Agility skills to proc Close Quarters Combat. Might as well get that bonus. And then we're running Exploit Weakness with Tracker. And then we just go over here, and we are going to be running in Cunning Stratagem. We're going to be running Bane, so more poison, as it's a poison build. And then we go into Cheap Shot with Devious over here. We're going to take all this damage to crowd control because we do get a multiplier off of it, and then also this damage reduction from elites. And then we move into the next board, which is Rana's Instinct, and we get Control. We'll put a little bit more points into here because we can get another multiplier, plus it just gives us extra damage. And then we're going to go into Eldritch Bounty with Canny, and we're going to be getting this for the Imbued Attack. So that's how we are getting, that's why we actually use the Poison Imbuement, but we don't really care about the ranks of it. We just need to activate it. And then the last one's going to be Deadly Ambush over here for the 7th board. I mean, this one really goes crazy with it. But yeah, I really enjoy this build. And on top of that, I have a second variant here that I can swap to during the bosses. Now, this is optional if you want a snapshot swap. This is something that I did. I even showed you guys in the gameplay where we swapped once we got to the boss, where we just swapped to Umbra Crux. That's pretty much the only change that I would make really here. And if you really want to, you could swap out other things to min-max a little bit more. If you really wanted to get the boss DPS to go even faster, you could play something like Tibaltz. Tibaltz is always going to be one of the most offensive pair of pants. You will lose out on survivability, but on the bosses in general, the boss is quite easy. So I would say go ahead and swap to Tibaltz if you want to, because you can change your inventory in here. And then, yeah, so swap to Umbra Crux, and then if you want to, I guess you can just put Tibaltz here. It depends on like how good your stats are. But yeah, really fun build. Try it out, guys. If you guys have played my Barrage build, and if you guys are wondering, because I get asked this, and again, I kind of already answered it, but I like this one way more than Barrage. The reason why is if you watch in the gameplay, there's so many times where I will shoot Pen Shot. Remember, it will shoot out 2 arrows because we have the bonus with the tempering. It's going to give you 2. So I like it because of the way that it's like very responsive, and you don't have to play the thing where you're throwing down the totem. If you want to play Umbra Crux in the build instead of like Doombringer, hey, you're going to get way more DPS, but I feel like Doombringer specifically in the tier 8 of the Infernal Hordes, it makes the gameplay way smoother. There's a lot of things that can kind of do some like one-shottiness, and they have actually made a update, so you'll have to play and see kind of how strong your character is, because you could be a lot stronger now and you might not know it because they tried to update some of the things that would do some sort of one-shot mechanics. But honestly, the guys that hold up like the giant like axe and slam down, those and like the vile lunatics, which are the ones that run up to you and they explode, those two in particular are the main ones you do want to dodge if you don't want to run Doombringer. But hey, if you run Doombringer, you can play like a lot less what is this word? Mindful. So like you could play really like lenient. You can kind of like watch anime or then kind of just shoot in the background. You'll be a-okay. But if you do want to pay attention and get way more DPS, obviously go ahead and swap. But anyways, that's going to go and wrap up the build. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. Again, try it over Barrage and let me know what you think, because I genuinely feel like this is the best rogue build, especially for the Infernal Hordes, where the density is very high. Now, Barrage technically will be a little bit better for the bossing specifically, because there's only going to be, of course, like 1 to 3 targets on the bosses. But the overall speed at which I was calculating when I was doing some times, this is way better and you're going to get way more Aether. But anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the bell if you want to see an update to this build, and check out the pinned. I'll have all the links as well as both of the different little variants that you swap to if you guys want to go ahead and try out other variants. But if there's any questions or suggestions, let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.